Hi, I'm Eileen Roche from Designs and Machine Embroidery, and I'm happy to be part of the Sallie Tomato Faux Leather Tour. This tour originated in Wisconsin, the home of Sallie Tomato. And there are several designers, bag makers that are joining in on this tour. If you go to my blog, you'll see the list of all of the participants, and every day they'll post a new bag that they've made with Sallie Tomato's faux leather. And it's quite honored to be asked when they wrote and said, would you like to participate? We have an open date. I said, sure, I'd love to. You know, it's been quite a while since I delved into making bags for you. I mean, I've been doing it for myself for sure. But several years ago, Nancy Zeman and I teamed up and we did 2 bag books, and we taped them on Sewing with Nancy, and they were so popular, definitely. And hi, everyone. Hi, Tana from Orlando and Cindy Graff from Wisconsin. Thanks for joining in. Kelly Ross from Michigan. Yesterday and the day before was when it started. It started on the 25th. So if you go to my blog, you can see that list of participants and go to their websites and see what they're doing every day. It's a fun way to start your day and see what they've created and what they're sharing. Elaine Shaw, she has says she loves Sallie Tomato purses and products, and I agree. The hardware is outstanding. Really hand-selected by Jessica Barrera, the founder of Sallie Tomato. And maybe you thought Sallie Tomato was really a person. Well, Sallie Tomato, her is really a person in a way. It's Jessica Barrera, the owner and founder. But her middle name is Sally, and the tomato is a nod to the tomato pincushion that many of us use. Another artist that's joining in is Reen Wilcoxon. And Reen, you're a part of the tour. I think maybe your day is tomorrow. I'm not sure. So maybe you type in the comments and let everybody know if that's tomorrow. We have some friends from France and Canada. It's always nice to have everybody here. So you saw a glimpse of the bag that I did on my blog, maybe if you were over there, and that's how you knew we were going to be doing this today. So let's kind of get started. I'm going to talk to you about the pattern that I use to make my bag and some of the straps, strap tips that I learned in using this faux leather, which I have to say that her faux leather is very easy to work with. I didn't really even need a Teflon foot, or I didn't have to put tearaway stabilizer underneath when I was sewing. So, it's really very friendly. Okay, Reen, Reen Wilcoxon from Embroidery Garden. Her post is tomorrow for her participating project in this tour. So make sure you pop over there tomorrow and see that. And Jen Freisha, thanks so much for your kind comments. Boy, Nancy and I had an awful lot of fun on Sewing with Nancy. I can tell you, it's a lot of work, but it was an honor to participate with her on her show all those times. 17 different shows I think we did together, which was just great. And, a secret between you and I, there is a documentary coming out this fall, dedicated to Nancy's life. And I think we're all going to enjoy seeing that when it comes available on PBS. So I'm going to walk you through some of the tips on the straps, and then we're actually going to put one of the corners on and we'll attach a strap to a bag. So let's switch over to this tight shot over here and see if we can get that up there. There we go. And so here you can see my bag. I selected just a plain black canvas, very traditional, not very fancy, but this is a working handbag, let's call it that. And of course I used Sally's D-rings and her hazelnut pebble faux leather to do the straps, the finish on the top of the bag, the strap connectors, and the corners themselves. I used the basic pattern that was in the book that Nancy and I wrote called Designer Handbags. And we used our embroidery machine to make the accents on the corners and also on the strap connectors. So I'm going to move over to the machine in a bit and I'll show you how to do that. But for now, let's kind of focus on that strap because that's pretty important. We're going to start with a 1.5 piece, a strip of canvas fabric, the same as our bag. And I don't have any interfacing on it at all. I am using a 3/4 inch bias tape maker by Clover. I love them. They really make kind of a difficult task easy to achieve. And you want your strap to be, I like mine 27 inches in length, but measure your favorite handbag and go with that dimension. Okay, once we start the point of this strip of fabric into the bias tape maker, then when I pull it through, I would have an iron, which I have a little iron here somewhere, and I would be pressing that down to, this isn't on clearly, and that would firmly press that crease. So as I slide, I get the raw edges to meet in the middle. It's perfect. I love that. So then, once we have that all done, it's time to add our strip of faux leather. And I cut my faux leather a 1/2 inch wide, and then I use double-sided basting tape. And that's part of the kit that Sallie Tomato is offering to you on her website for this project. But it's double-sided. This stuff is wonderful. You can sew through it. So I apply that strip of tape, and then I just peel off that protective paper, and then center that over that raw edge where they meet. And then I go to the machine, and with a long stitched length, I stitch on both sides of my strap. Really nice and tight to the edge. You want to make sure that you're catching the edge, but you do want it to be consistent on both sides. And then we turn it around. We slip in our hardware. And here you can use a little piece of that tape to hold this in place so you can fold it over and finish that edge. And then at the sewing machine, I sew right here in the black. I don't sew on the faux leather because we don't want another row of stitches, but I have enough fabric on the edges to just stitch in black thread. Nobody will ever see it. Like, you don't really see it here on either side. So pretty easy to get going. And then we're going to need a 7-inch length of grosgrain ribbon for each of the strap connectors. And then at my embroidery machine, I hoop just the faux leather. I don't use any stabilizer. And I pre-cut my applique. So I'm going to make 4 strap connectors and 2 right and 2 left of the corner designs that go on the bottom of the bag. They look a little funny, but they're very functional. And actually, whenever I'm making a project like this, I will make 5 of each of these pieces, total, so that I can test all of my pieces. So what I'm testing here is the interfacing, the fusible fleece. I make a sandwich of those 2 items, those 2 kind of strengthening the foundation of the bag, and fuse that to the black canvas. And then this is the stabilizer that I used, Piece and Stitch Tearaway, that I will use to actually applique these designs onto the bag itself. So I make a sample like this. You can see here, I was testing a bean stitch. I wanted to see what that would look like. I gave up on that. I didn't really like it. The trimming had to be too exact, so I found that using a satin, which is the original design in this designer handbag book, was really the way to go. So that's worked out just fine. So once I have them all stitched out, I cut them out, and I cut right at that thread line, right just outside of it. If you cut the thread line, it's okay. You don't want to go inside the thread line. So then I take all those pieces, my strap, I will make 2 of those, my 4 strap connectors, my 4 corner pieces, my 4 lengths of grosgrain ribbon, and off to the machine we go. So let's go over and take a look at that. So let me see before we go over there if there are any comments. Let's see. Ashley loves that handbag. Thanks, Ashley. Oh, and Joanne Banco, boy, she's full of good tips all the time. So an adjustable blind hem foot would be great for the edge stitching. Yes, it would be, for sure. You could guide the edge of that strap right along the fabric guide on the foot. Let's see. And Elaine Shaw, you love the book and its clear explanations. Well, I know Nancy was a great writer, and we teamed up doing that. I learned a lot from her, for sure. So it was really, you know, a wonderful experience. And boy, when I've traveled around the country and going to sewing shows and sewing events, I see people all over the country carrying those bags. And boy, that just, it tickles me inside. It's just a great feeling, just a great feeling. So, and I know that they live a very long time, because I have a computer laptop bag that I've been carrying for 8 years. And, you know, I made it out of the project, out of the patterns that's in that book, and I still use it every single day, back and forth to work. Yep. Okay, so let's go over to the embroidery machine, and I hope this all works out, because I really haven't done this here on live, but we're going to see how it goes. So off we go. Okay, you can see at my machine, I already have all my materials that I need. So here's my bag, and I have, this is my bag panel. So I have one corner already applied, and I have a center mark with a pin, but we'll use that in a little bit later. I have piece and stitch hooped in my monster hoop, and I've stitched color one of the embroidery design, which is a black outline. Well, I stitched it in black. I suggest that you stitch it in a color you can see really well, because its only function is to just be a placement guide. And then I'm going to make sure that my fabric is aligned with that outline. And I often do stand up and look in the back of the hoop and make sure everything is aligned. And I don't think we have a live. Do we have live camera? Let's see. I think we're frozen over there. Let me take a minute and see. Was that moving? Can somebody tell me? Let's see. Yep, it's moving. Okay, great. All right, off we go. So I often use a pair of scissors just to kind of keep my hand, well, not my hand, but my scissors on the bag, so that it just doesn't shift around as it is doing this tack down. And this is a, you know, fast running stitch, and its only function is to hold the bag to the stabilizer, and then also to outline the placement guide for this faux leather. So now, because this is pre-cut, I'm just going to position this right over that outline. Boy, there are some wonderful features on this Baby Lock Solaris that I could use, like the live camera or maybe the projector, to see where I am, to make sure that my applique is positioned just fine. And I look pretty good. So I'm going to go press start, and I will hold this down, keeping my fingers out of the way. And if you're a little off, you can still trim. If I'm just outside, that's okay too. And we'll let that stitch. It's going to do a satin right now. We'll press start again. I should have turned my little music machine off, right? Lower the presser foot and start it again. So now it'll do that satin stitch along the edge, and that is all you have to do in the hoop for this portion of the bag. So what it's doing is it's adding not only an accent to the corner, but it's also defining the shape of the bottom of the bag. And you'll see when we take that out what that's going to look like. In fact, I have a sample that I could get to show you. This is an older sample that I used to use as I traveled around the country. But that cutout piece, when pieced together, is going to show you, you will sew, here's, the front and the back, and we've sewn it together at the bottom seam. And then it's this cutout that really makes the shape of the bag. Once we piece this together at the side seam, like so. When we sew that, then when we box the corner, it is perfectly shaped, and then my bottom will fit exactly as planned. So it's pretty cool. So it's doing the satin stitching. There's not that many stitches left, less than 1,000, so it won't be too long. But you know, these bags can be any shape, well, any size. You're really just going to start with a rectangle. My rectangle is 10 inches tall and 14 inches wide. But on my laptop bag, I've made that quite larger, and it is 12 inches, no, it's 16 inches wide and 14 inches tall. It's a deep bag to accommodate office supplies. So, you know, you just start with the size rectangle that you want, and your bag can be any size because your handles are always positioned pretty much the same width apart on every bag. Go in your closet and measure your handbags and see the difference between, you know, bag A, bag B, bag C. There won't be that much of a difference. You'll be amazed, especially the distance between the strap connectors. So it's just about finishing up, and it's looking really, really nice. It's covered all of the edges. I love that when it comes out great. So I am using a ballpoint needle, a 1175. That's what kind of needle I'm using here. Elaine, thanks for asking that. And let's see. You know, it's important, you know, vinyl or faux leather, it kind of is, you know, like real leather. It's pretty stretchy. So you have to be careful with your needles. So a ballpoint is probably best. Okay, so now that's done. And we'll take this off the machine. And I can just rip this out right here. You can see there's just nothing but a hole there. And we'll get rid of that hoop. And then I have another one started. Well, already hooped. So I'm using a bigger hoop, although you don't have to. All of the designs in this book come in a 5x7 design size. So, but you can do each strap connector separately in a 5x7 hoop, but I'm going to do both of them together in a large hoop. I'm not going to make you sit through it, but I just thought I would show you how you can use that size hoop. So now I'm just going to go back to my USB stick and find that design. And here it is. And I'll rotate that 90 degrees because I want the body of my bag to extend off the over the pantograph itself. So the first color that we're going to stitch is the outline. It's a placement guide, just like there was in the corner design. And it's those placement guides that ensure the front of your bag and the back of your bag are going to match exactly. If your sewing skills aren't up to snuff, then rely on your embroidery machine because it can really get the job done. And so it's going to do the long vertical. I'll align the raw edge of the bag with the long vertical stitch line. And then this horizontal stitch line is the center of the bag. It is also going to stitch the next color is a tack down, which is really very handy. So right now I'm sliding my bag into position and I'm aligning that top edge with the vertical line and my pin, which marks the center of the design with that horizontal stitch line. And lower the presser foot. I'm going to remove that pin so I don't stitch over it. I want to make sure my bag is straight on the line. Press go. And I am kind of holding on to the bag. Now, sticky stabilizer is most certainly applicable, but I often just do what I call hands-on embroidery, where I just give it a little helping hand during this phase of the project. And then it's easy to peel off or just tear away that design. So we're in black thread, which probably wasn't a good idea because you're not going to be able to see that real well, but that's okay. It's going to stitch an outline for the ribbon. and an outline for the placement guide, and it's going to do that on both of the right and the left side. Let's see. Joya Banco, she says, hug your sewing machine, hug your machine. It makes your sewing life enjoyable. It sure does. Yeah. And Joanne, you also like that faux leather can be easily cleaned. It absolutely can be. You know, you just, with a wet cloth, you're able to just, you know, wipe away any dirt or residue that's gotten on it. So easy to do. And Armenia wants to know, how much is that embroidery machine? Well, worth every penny, I can tell you that. Call your local dealer. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's doing its job. It's doing its part for us. So the next thing that will happen is I'm just going to skip and advance to a color so you don't have to sit through all that. We'll cut that thread and lots of up and down, right? Okay. So the next portion of the design is going to, oh, I did this wrong. Okay, well, we're just going to wing it. We're going to put this strap connector on this swivel hook. Same idea, right? It's same if it was a D-ring. And I'm centering my ribbon inside the placement guide. And again, I could tape this down if I wanted to, probably Scotch tape. Probably not painter's tape. I would just use Scotch tape. But we have some bean stitches here that are going to tack down this grosgrain ribbon. And I'll tell you, this is never going to come apart. It's nice and strong. It'll do a box around the grosgrain ribbon, and then it'll actually stitch an X. And if you have some excess ribbon hanging out the bottom beyond your placement guide for your connector, you could trim that away. You do want to make sure that your hardware is just about even, or maybe a ½ inch below the edge of the bag. Any further out and the bag won't hang properly. Now I'm just going to align that prepared applique and make sure it's all lined up. And it'll stitch a tack down. Now, if I had not aligned this properly, I can stop, you know, the machine will stop and I can take the opportunity to trim that applique so that any excess faux leather that's sticking out could be trimmed away. And I do have some popping out over here. So I'll just take a moment and trim that away. I like to do that right in the hoop. I don't even need to take it off. These curved scissors are just great for that. Pull that away and let it do its job. Now, if you're worried about, you know, holding this together, is this strap going to fall apart? Go ahead and use those clips. They're very handy. You could also clip it out of harm's way back to the other end of the bag. But I usually just leave it off to the side like that and don't really worry about it. Armenia, is that $2,000? It's a little bit more than $2,000, but it does way more than just hands-free sewing. You will be amazed at what that machine can do. So don't ever be afraid to take a visit into a local dealer and take a look at those machines, because they're worth every penny. I can tell you that. Absolutely. Let's see. And, you know, Joanne, I agree with you, Joanne Banco, that automation does equal absolute perfection. I would struggle getting 4 corners to match, 4 strap connectors to match, making sure every seam allowance, every edge was stitched absolutely perfectly. So that's what I love about using an embroidery machine for what I call functional embroidery. And it's not necessarily beautiful. These, I mean, they're stylish and they're kind of smart looking. They're tailored looking. They could be a lot more embellished and exciting, but this is just kind of a designer detail that's simple and plain. Yeah, so love that. Okay, so it's just about finishing. Let's take a look back there, see what it's doing. Yeah, it's just about done. So I'll pull that out of the hoop once it finishes, so we don't have to sit through the other side. But basically, that's what you would do with the other end of the strap. Same process. So Mary McCannon, you want to know a little bit more about the hoop? Well, the hoop that I'm using is our Snap Hoop Monster, and that's a flat magnetic hoop. So the bottom of the hoop is metal, and the top frame is magnetic. And when you hoop something in it, you don't get any hoop burn. I'll kind of show you. Here's the plain metal bottom. I think you can see that. And then the magnetic top is also flat. So your fabric lays inside, in between those two layers. So no hoop burn, and it's very strong. I love to use it for quilting. I like to use it for terry cloth towels. It's also great for bag embroidery. Right now, this technique that I'm showing does not include actually hooping the bag, but I could for sure in that hoop. So let's go ahead and take this off the machine so you can see exactly how that's stitched. So pretty nice, right? Isn't that great? It's just stitched. All the edges are covered. Here's my ribbon that's holding on my hardware. And then the next step would be to add my ribbon here and my other strap connector. And then my strap is attached to my bag. So I love that. Really super fun. And perfection every single time, right? Let's get this and take this over here. And then we'll move up. Yeah, so I don't know if you have any other questions about the hoop, but it has a protective suede on the back. So as it rides across the bed of the machine, this suede protects the machine from any scratching. And then, of course, it comes with adhesive self-adhesive rulers that you apply yourself. You can kind of look on my blog. When you purchase the hoop, there's instructions on how to do that. And I love these hoops. I use them all the time. I invented them several years ago. We have a patent on that. And I think if I didn't come up with a magnetic hoop, I don't think I'd be embroidering today. Just saying. Shh, don't tell anybody. Anyway. Okay, so here's my bag, right? It's not black, but this is a pretty one from way back in the day. And when I used to teach with my sister Marie around the country, I would show all these beautiful bags. And then I would hold up this and she goes, and that's mine that you haven't finished yet, right? So very true. But in the book, there's techniques on how to finish the bottom. You know, you add a stabilizer piece to the bottom to give it more shape and so forth. I would add feet at this time if I wanted feet on my bag. But then basically, we just sew that side seam together and then we box the bottom and you have a finished bag. And I'll go get my, my sample that shows the Sallie Tomato wonderful items. And here it is. So, I mean, this is a bag that is just awesome. It's just great because, you know, it looks like it was purchased, right? Nobody would really have any idea that I am, you know, that I made it myself. And I think that's our goal, isn't it? I mean, we like a designer look, but I think we also like to have our own look, you know, want people to think that we actually made it. And I did say that Sallie Tomato has a kit available on her website, and in it is included is the interfacing and the interfacing, the fusible fleece, 4 Sallie Tomato 3/4 inch D-rings, the double-sided basting tape. And that's really all you would need to get going. You know, she also has beautiful patterns. I mean, not for embroidery, but she has great bag patterns. They're quite accomplished up there, my friends in Wisconsin. So I think you'll enjoy browsing through her website. She has an awful lot to offer. But look for more bag items coming out from Dime in the near future. In the next couple of months, we have some really exciting things coming down the pike that I can't really talk about right yet, but pretty soon we will, right? Okay, the book is, Penny wants to know what the book is. It's on our website. It is Designer Handbags by Nancy Zeman and Eileen Roche. So, and there is info in that tag right there that tells you. And Elaine, you've made several, huh? Right. Okay, that's great. So tomorrow, thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne Banco. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, same time here, I have Deborah Jones, our expert embroiderers extraordinaire, and we're going to be talking all about stabilizers. You know, she is, boy, she brings a wealth of knowledge to our company, that's for sure. She has both a commercial background and a home sew background, so I always learn from Deborah. She's also the creator of the Embroiderers Compass, which is a very handy tool on helping you select stabilizer with whatever particular fabric you're using at that time, and she tells you what size needle. So that's awesome. So Retha, you want to know what is the black part? I just used canvas. I didn't use a faux leather. I could have for sure, but frankly, when the offer came to participate in the tour, I just, you know, first thing I thought of was, oh, I'll just do black canvas with that beautiful hazelnut pebble accents. So, but I kind of wish I had done the whole bag in vinyl now that I know how easy it is to work with. And of course, she has beautiful cork too. So, well, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll take advantage of this tour, because you're going to be seeing some really great bags over the next 2 weeks. And thanks to Sallie Tomato for inviting Dime, and we'll see you soon. See you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Bye for now.